Hey guys, Yips here, coming with another video, and this one is going to be a kill video on Tichondrius as an Affliction Warlock. So, the reason I want to talk today about Tichondrius is simply because he's a relatively difficult boss in order to deal maximum DPS on, and the reason being is because he has many different phases with many different adds and things like that where you need to prioritize DPS in different ways. And what I mean by that is he has parts of the fight where he spawns adds that you need to AoE down, but then you also need to AoE them down and then transfer that damage back into single target because he's an enraged boss and you need to do a lot of damage to him as well and not just the adds. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how you're going to be doing damage to the adds, how you're going to be doing damage to the boss, and how you're going to kind of transfer them one way to another. So first let's talk about one of the most important things, okay? Don't go crazy spamming UA into the boss. Don't go crazy spamming UA into Tichondrius, because the reason you don't want to do that is because when the ad spawns, you want to make sure that you have a shard count in order to cast Seed of Corruption onto the little tainted bloods. I'm running Sow the Seeds in this video, so I'm using, like, whenever I cast Seed of Corruption, 3 of them go out, not just one. It just increases my AoE DPS. But what you're going to notice is I'm pre-casting Seed on these ads, but also when these ads are getting low, I'm making sure, like here, I'm snapping to them, I'm getting my shard count back when they die. So you see here I have a UA and I drain soul it, I get 2 shards back, and all of these shards that you use on the ads and all of these shards and things like that that you're using to cast Seed of Corruption, you can use those and turn back around and dump UAs into the boss, do a lot of single target damage, and that's kind of the flow that I was talking about. That's the flow that you're going to be doing on this boss fight. You're going to be casting Seed of Corruption right away as soon as the ad spawns, because you're going to have a high shard count because you're not going to be dumping into the boss right away. And then once the ad dies, you're going to like replenish your shard count by using Drain Soul from all the things that you spend on Seed of Corruption and stuff like that. And then you're going to be able to use those shards that you gain from the ads and transfer it back to the boss. So let's talk a little bit about the talents I'm using in this video. I'm using Malefic Grasp, Absolute Corruption, Sow the Seeds, and Soul Conduit. The reason I'm running these talents is I feel like it's the best build to do mass AoE DPS, and also the best build to do a good amount of single target with. I just feel like it's effective at a lot of different things, and I feel like those are the ones that will really, like, you know, be the best for me on this boss fight. So you see here, every single time that those ads spawn, I'm just Seed of Corruptioning them, and then I'm Drain Souling them when they're dying for shard count. So now let's talk a little bit about the bat phase. The bat phase is fairly difficult as an Affliction Warlock because the bats are just dying so damn quick. You don't seem to have a lot of time to get Seed of Corruption on them because they're dying so fast, because everyone does such high AoE DPS. So what I usually end up doing is I cast Seed of Corruption on maybe the first set of bats that spawn. I cast maybe, if I can, on a high health bat or something like that. But really what I focus on doing is casting Corruption on low health bats. Now, the reason that I cast Corruption on low health bats is because when they die and I've tagged them, what happens is they explode for Soul Flame DPS, and that's where most of your damage is coming from in those bat phases, is from Soul Flame. So that's kind of what I ended up resorting to doing, because with all the movement that happens with the beam, the long cast of Seed of Corruption, all of that sort of stuff that's going on, what I ended up finding to do the best DPS for me during that phase was simply just, you know, maybe cast 1 or 2 Seed of Corruptions, not too many, but really just focusing on corruptioning the low ads and getting my 30% damage buff from the dead bats going into this phase that will last for 30 seconds. So just utilizing the same sort of tools here that I was in phase 1 again. He's going to be spawning the 3 blobs, but as well a little bit into this phase he starts spawning 2 more ads along with the blobs, and this just leads you to do even more AoE DPS and have even more potential to snap more shards back into the boss. So you see, every time these ads spawn, I'm just utilizing that Drain Soul effect, getting my shard count back up, casting UA into the boss and things like that. I get Carrion Plague here, so I have to move over to the left side to stand away from the group. So more ads are going to be spawning in a minute here, the bloods, but you're also going to see the Fell Swarm start spawning in the back of the room. And what you're going to want to do with them is you're going to want to precast Seed of Corruption on the ads and things like that. Get some agonies out because these ads last a little bit longer, so you're going to be able to do more DPS if you dot them with more dots and things like that. The bloods tend to die pretty quickly, but the Fell Swarm do last a little bit longer, so it will be effective to multi-dot them. But you see here, I'm really utilizing the Drain Soul in order to snap this stuff back. So now that we've talked about how to do DPS on this boss fight really effectively, how to kind of move your DPS from AoE back to the boss and things like that, let's talk about how to deal with mechanics on this boss. Let's talk about how to deal with all of the different things that are going to be happening in order for you to minimize movement and to maximize your DPS. So basically the way the boss works is he has a few mechanics that are going to cause you to move here, and the mechanics are going to be, he's going to give you the Carrion Plague, and what that means is you're going to have to move away from your raids. So what I tend to do is I set up my gateway on the side where the people without the Carrion Plague have, and then I put it over to the side where the people that will be getting it go to once they have it. And basically what that allows you to do is when you get the Carrion Plague, you just take your gateway over to that side, and you're immediately there. You don't have to worry about running across the boss room. The other mechanic that you're going to have to deal with is when he summons the pillars and things like that. There's not too much you can do. He summons the pillars in random locations. But the last mechanic, and the way that my guild deals with it, is he sometimes gives people these giant green circles around them. And what we end up doing is we run those green circles into the melee in order to pop them. What happens is when you run into enough people, this green thing will explode, dealing AoE damage to the whole raid. We run it into the melee and it explodes instantly. And what you can do is you can set up a demonic circle on the boss himself, and every time that you get that, when they call for you to run in, you see one of the guys is running in right now and blowing it up on the melee. You can just use Demonic Circle to get in there really quickly and then run back out. So that's how you want to be dealing with the relative mechanics on this boss fight. Honestly, the mechanics aren't the most challenging part of this boss fight. The most challenging part of this boss fight is managing adds and then also managing boss DPS. And that's what a lot of guilds are going to struggle with. They're going to struggle with killing all of these adds, burning all of these adds down quickly, and then immediately taking that damage, switching it back to the boss, burning him down, trying to beat that in rage timer. You see my guild here, we're running with 30 members. We've barely beaten the rage timer on this boss. He does go insane, or he doesn't rage, but he doesn't end up killing all of us before he does die. But you see, in the last phase, he's going to spawn even one more add, which is going to allow you to AoE even better with this Sow the Seeds build. That's why I really recommend you guys run Sow the Seeds on this boss fight, because I just feel like it's so effective at doing mass amounts of DPS to all these adds. You see the new add that spawned is this Sightless Watcher. Really hard-hitting ad, casts this mass AoE around the room. So this boss fight is very hectic, but it's also very, very fun as an Affliction Warlock. That's something I really want to emphasize about Nighthold. All the bosses in here tend to be extremely enjoyable to play as an Affliction Warlock because there's so many ad spawning. It's so dynamic. You get to play so many different specs and do a really good job at doing a lot of DPS with whatever spec you do choose to play, that it's just a really enjoyable experience for an Affliction Warlock, and I'm really, really happy Blizz made it to like be so enjoyable. So you see here, more Tainted Bloods are spawning. You just want to play the same way you did as Phase 1, just there's more adds in Phase 2 and Phase 3. So basically, master this mechanic in Phase 1, master it while there's only a few adds, where there's only the boss, while it's really easy, while there's not much raid DPS going on, while people are alive, and if you're able to master it in Phase 1, you can probably transfer that into Phase 2 and Phase 3 and so on. So thanks for watching, guys. This is going to be the kill video on Tichondrius. I'll let the rest of the video play out. I'll talk a little bit about what my plans are now for the future of Nighthold. So the videos that I plan to get out next for the kill ones are probably going to be the later ones. I'm probably going to make kill videos on the first 3 bosses, that being Scorpion, Chromatic Anomaly, and Trilliax, and when I'm going to make those kill videos is probably going to be on Mythic, simply because I think we'll kill them on Mythic next week, and the way that my guild does them on Heroic and Normal are a little bit different than most guilds will, because we're just so overgeared for those bosses and they tend to be fairly easy, and the fact that those bosses are fairly easy makes it so we don't really do it in the most efficient way possible. But on Mythic, they're going to be a lot harder, so I think it's going to be easier for me to kind of tell you guys how to play against those bosses when it's in a more realistic setting for me. But all of the bosses from there on, from Spellblade all the way up to Gul'dan, I'll make sure I'll make videos on either Heroic or Normal for you guys, kind of talking about them, how to do DPS them on, things like that, because I do feel like they're all fairly challenging bosses on those difficulties and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoy this Tichondrius video. I hope it's helped you to learn how to do more DPS to them, how to effectively, you know, switch damage between adds and through the boss, and that's what I really wanted to highlight. So I hope you guys liked it, I hope you guys appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later.